Hey everybody, so I updated the Steam demo and I didn't tell anybody until right now in this video. I wanted to make some changes as well as address some feedback that I've gotten for the demo so I can be ready for Next Fest. One of the new features is that the enemies will drop a temporary buff that lasts about 10 seconds. There is a buff that does double damage and there's another buff that gives you spectral armor, so it's sort of invincibility for about 10 seconds. But while that buff is enabled, your dash is disabled. I've also made some improvements to the character movement and the way the character responds to certain button presses. In previous versions of the demo, it used to be that you'd have to press the crouch button or up slightly before you press the shoot button in order to shoot up or crouched. But now it can be done at the same time and it feels a little bit more responsive. Another improvement is when doing a ledge grab, you can now press back in order to let go in addition to down, as well as being able to jump up from the ledge grab and dash back from the ledge grab. These give you a little bit more options in maneuverability. In previous versions, you also had a bit of a problem shooting after you come out of a ledge grab as well as an air dash, but these have also been fixed. I've also made it so that the bomb weapon no longer uses up energy when you throw it. This way it could be used as a last resort in case you run out of energy. And the blast from the bomb lasts just a little bit longer. Blast lasts, blasts. Snake Jazz. I've also made it so that you don't get knocked back when you take damage, unless you get hit by the swinging spike ball. In the tutorial section, I've added this prompt because it seemed to be tripping up a few people, according to some of the feedback I've gotten. So hopefully that clears things up a bit. I've also added this Gravedigger zombie that would hurl dirt projectiles at the player. And I've reworked the middle section of the graveyard in order to add a checkpoint. In the second part of the level, I've added a secret shortcut that would take you to an extra checkpoint, but you'd have to fight a mini-boss to get to it. So while it is shorter, it could be more dangerous. And it's not so secret anymore. Why do I keep talking about this? In the previous versions of the demo, I had it so that when you die, during the loading screen it tells you the amount of times you've died. I found that this may be a little bit discouraging for players, even though it might be an interesting statistic, especially if you're trying to do a no-death run. So what I ended up doing was add this progress bar that would show you the checkpoints and how far you have to the next checkpoint. This screen appears when you die, and you'll be able to see how far you've made it. And you can hit retry in order to start from the last checkpoint. Psychologically, what happens to me when I see this kind of progress bar is that I see how far I am to the next checkpoint and I want to just try again to see if I can get further. I get that feeling of like, I was so close to the next checkpoint, I gotta try again. I get a similar feeling when I'm fighting a boss in, say, Elden Ring or Bloodborne, and I think eventually what I'm gonna have is a sort of miniaturized version of the level that goes alongside the progress bar. This feature was kind of a tricky thing to pull off. I had to run a spline along the entirety of the level, and then I had to figure out what the closest location was from my character to the spline, as well as getting the locations of the checkpoints along the spline and mapping them to a percentage. So I had to have the code place the checkpoints at the corresponding locations, and then I had to figure out how many percent the character is along the spline. So 0 being the spawn location and 100% being the boss room. I was also able to cut out 3 seconds of the loading time by optimizing how the level loads. I've also been able to cut down the size of the demo from 9.5 gigs to 3.5 gigs. I also added some changes to the main menu. I've added some options for resolution, VSync, and a windowed mode. I think there was also a bug for the keyboard control during the tutorial. The prompts would appear a bit low res, so I fixed that as well. Some of the movement improvements were suggested to me by a game designer named Lorenzo Martinez. He's a Spanish game designer that recently played the demo and not only gave extensive notes, but also for every problem that he found, he also gave several solutions to the problem. So I'd like to give him a shout out as well. So that's the update on the demo. As far as the next part that I'm working on is a level called the Royal Catacombs that's filled with lots of skeletons. For this level, I've created several different types of enemies. There's this guy that runs really fast at you and lunges when he gets close to you with his bone blade. And once you kill these guys, dies, they'll collapse into a pile of bones, and then they'll revive in a few seconds, so they cannot be killed unless you use a bomb. I've also created these skeleton mages that fly around and shoot these projectiles from their staff, as well as these long neck creatures that shoot projectiles from their mouth. I'm not going to give too much away about this area because I want it to be a surprise, so I'm going to leave it off there for the devlog. And I'll finish the video on a bit of news. So last October, when I first released the demo, I tried my hand at signing up for the Epic Games Mega Grant program, and I just got word that Ghost Knight was actually one of the ones that was selected. This was kind of a shock to me because it's been like 6 months, and I kind of figured I was either forgotten about, or maybe they didn't see the project, or maybe they just kind of passed and didn't tell me. But thanks to Epic Games, I get a little bit more financial support from this program. I'm glad that what I was able to show at least impressed someone over there, and I'm really thankful for their support. So yay! Abrupt ending.